On this Wednesday night, the coronavirus officially reaches pandemic proportions.
Convincing the inhabitants of to another unlikely group of people who have been recruited and employed as agents of the beast system that seeks to establish the one world government. These are the pastors of 501c3 churches. The 501c3 designation means that they are tax exempt. However, in order to maintain that tax exempt status, they are forced to follow the directives put forth by the government. In other words, the government controls what the pastor can and cannot say. In Acts chapters 4 and 5, Peter and the apostles were warned not to preach the gospel by the high priests. However, this is how they responded in Acts 5:29. Then Peter and the other apostles answered and said, "We ought to obey God rather than men." This is the perfect, undiluted truth that regardless of what man or government says, we must obey Yah and preach the truth. But wait, it gets worse. Not only are these pastors told what they cannot say, the government has taken it a step further by now using these pastors as agents of the government and directing them to lead you into passive compliance with whatever directives are promulgated by the government.
Law ever become a reality in America? Some fear any nuclear, biological, or chemical attack on U.S. territory might trigger just that. And as KSLA News 12's Jeff Ferrell discovered, the clergy would help the government with potentially their biggest problem, us.
From my cold, dead hands.
Charlton Heston's famous declaration captures a truly American value, the overarching desire to protect our freedoms. But gun confiscation is exactly what happened during the state of emergency following Hurricane Katrina in New Orleans. U.S. troops also arrived, something far easier to do even now thanks to last year's elimination of the 1878 Posse Comitatus Act. That forbid U.S. troops from policing on American soil. If martial law were enacted here at home, like depicted in the movie The Siege, easing public fears and quelling dissent would be critical. And that's exactly what the Clergy Response Team, as it's called, helped accomplish in New Orleans.
Jeff, the primary thing that we say to anybody is let's cooperate and get this thing over with, and then we'll settle the differences once the crisis is over.
Such clergy response teams would walk a tightrope between the needs of the government versus the wishes of the public.
In a lot of cases, these clergy would already be known in the neighborhoods in which they're helping to defuse that situation.
For the clergy, one of the biggest tools that they will have in helping calm the public down or obey the law is the Bible itself, specifically Romans 13.
Because the government is established by the Lord, and that's what we believe in the Christian faith. That's what's stated in the Scripture.
Notice that these pastors are told to use Romans chapter 13 in order to force your compliance and passive obedience to the mandates of the government. And we know that the number 13 represents rebellion against God. Romans 13:1 actually declares, "Let every soul be subject unto the higher powers, for there is no power but of God. The powers that be are ordained of God." I always say that when reading and interpreting scripture, we must always use common sense and the wisdom given to us by Yah to think logically and clearly. This scripture begins by saying, "Let every soul be subject unto the higher powers." Well, the highest power is that of the Most High God. So my very first duty above all others is to be subject to God's law, and His laws are the 10 Commandments.